Hello everyone, how are you doing? Rada here from Little Crafters Boxes and LCV Education. I'm not having a lot of luck with my tech today. Earlier there was no sound. I think the sound is working, but now there's no light. Hang on a sec, let me just switch the light on. How's that? Can you see and hear me okay? Do let me know in the comments. Hello, oh, Zoe's here. Hello Zoe, nice to see you Zoe. Zoe, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And can you see me? Apologies if it's a little bit blurry. It's been one of those days today. It's like there's a ghost in the machine and it knew. Right, let's move you a little bit closer. There we go. There we go. Can you see me? Can you see the board? Let me know. Okay, so this evening is all about you parents. I hope your children have been participating in the day challenge for the children. Obviously, because I want them to enjoy it, but also because at the same time, parents, I want to help you understand what alternative education can actually feel like. Yes, Zoe can see and hear me. That's good. That's one. So that basically means it works. Okay. So yes, I want to show you parents rather than just teach you some theory, which will become pointless to you because you'll never then see it in action. I want you to see it while you learn the stuff. It's really, really useful stuff that no one ever tells you, okay? So these evening sessions are put on just for you. I am, obviously, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 8 p.m., I will be live here. And then on Thursday, at 6 p.m., there will be a joint live for the children and the parents. We will be announcing the winners of all the prizes. And yes, parents, I have not forgotten about you. There are prizes for you as well, okay? I will be rewarding you with prizes for taking part this week, okay? So every single night when I'm live, there will also be a thread that goes up on the LCB Education Facebook group, okay? If you take part in the tiny tasks that I give you at the end of each live, and you have a chance of winning a copy of my signed book. Okay, if you don't already know, I am the author of a book called There Is Another Way. Now, this is a #1 best-selling book on Amazon. Okay, it's all about alternative education. And if you are here today, then I'm guessing alternative education is a thing that is important for you. So you have a chance of winning a copy of the book just from participating in the live sessions. Okay, and on Thursday, I will talk to you a little bit about who's won, but then I will also give you some ideas because you'll have learned all this stuff and you'll be going, all right, okay, well, what now? What do we do now? So I'll show you what next, what your next steps might look like once you have all this, new wisdom in your heads. So that's the plan. So today is all about the different approaches to learning. So let's start off by thinking a little bit about what education looks like for you right now. Let me know in the comments what your main reason for home educating was, if you are a home educator, or if you're thinking about it, what are your main reasons? And what is one of the biggest challenges you face day to day? Let me know in the comments. And yeah, we'll see if there's any common ground there, because I reckon a lot of you have more in common than you think, okay? So while you guys are telling me that, what I'd like to do is spend some time talking you through from what I've seen. I've been working with this community now. We work with home education families. We work with tutors that facilitate education. We work with local authorities, schools, all sorts of different things, okay? I myself was a teacher in mainstream and special education collectively for about 15 years before I did this. I've been an exams officer, so I've seen lots of different things in education and worn many, many different hats. Based on what I've learned about you guys, I'm going to show you what your journeys tend to look like from my perspective. Hello to Saida and Mary, nice to see you. Oh yeah, let me talk you a little bit through my perception of what I see every day from talking to you, getting to know you, and the sort of pattern of what life tends to look like for. So what I see, the ones that sort of tend to end up in our community. Now, there are different types of home education. Zoe's saying, my son found mainstream so difficult and it was barely in the classroom despite having a one-to-one. He learned so well at home before going to school that he was crying every night about going at age 6. I'm so sorry to hear that, Zoe, but that fits in beautifully with what I was going to say. Can you guys see this okay? I hope you can. But generally, the ones that tend to end up in our community are the ones that, just like Zoe, for one reason or another, school didn't work out. It wasn't the right fit, or there might have been something terrible might have happened, or it just, for one reason or another, it didn't work, okay? So school is not an option, okay? And then you end up on this road, okay? So then what a lot of people tend to do, not everybody, but the pattern is you'll kind of tend to end up in this situation where you go, oh, okay, school didn't quite work out. Right, okay, let's create school at home. Let's get all the textbooks out. Let's get a tutor. Let's like sit down between 9 and 3 or whatever it is. Let me know, by the way, if this sounds familiar to you, okay? So then you do this thing where you basically try and create what school looked like for your child at home. And the reason you do this is because, yeah, Zoe's going, yep, 100%. The reason you do this is because you yourselves have been in or know mainstream education as the only way of educating, okay? So naturally, when you think about education, your brain goes to that model or that pattern of education, okay? And then when you realize, for a lot of people, Zoe's saying, I still do it every September, and then realize, oh, hang on, I know Radha. Remember what Radha said to me, you don't need to do this anymore, Zoe. It's okay not to. So most people will do this structured thing, right? And then they realize, oh, wait, hang on, this does not work. School didn't work for my child, so recreating school at home is not going to work for my child. It's not the right way. So then you do this, not all of you, again, I'm generalizing a lot here, okay? You might find yourself somewhere on this road, but not quite exactly on it. You might have taken a side street here and there, you know? So you'll do the opposite thing. You go, right, okay, school doesn't work. This is not working. Okay, we need to do something else. And then you go completely the other way, right? And what will happen is you go completely unstructured. So there's lots of names for these sort of models: Montessori, open-ended, interest-led, unschooling, unstructured. There's lots of different ways to describe sort of this sort of village of people, okay? So you do that for a little while, and then what tends to happen is a lot of people kind of go, oh, actually, hang on a minute, hang on. This doesn't work either. This is too unstructured. My house is chaos. My life is chaos. I can't plan anything. Some people say, do the structured thing and they love it. Other people do the unstructured thing and they love it and it works for them. But there's a massive camp of people where neither of those two scenarios work. And then you kind of go, hang on a minute, okay, we can't go too structured. We can't go unstructured. So you end up on this kind of going down this journey because you're a lot wiser by now. You've lost a few hairs, gained a few extra wrinkles along the way, fought the system a little bit more. And then you end up in this place where you're doing sort of a little bit of each, a little bit structured, but a little bit not. And that looks different for different people, okay? And that tends to be the pattern of home education. I say this, but even now, things are changing so much, okay? Government has changed, legislation is changing, people are changing, children are changing, diagnoses are changing, so many things are changing. So this road is moving as well, okay? Let's see what you guys are saying. We do a bit of a mix. There we go. So Zoe's up to here now. She's like, done the road, and she's come all the way down to the other end of the journey. The other thing to note, of course, with this is that this journey, so that road I showed you, okay, it's not a one-way system. Okay, that road goes both ways. So Zoe just said it right there. Look, she said, oh yeah, sometimes I go back and do a little bit of that one. I remember every September I need to not be structured. And I go back to not being structured again. Life changes. You might end up in a hospital for something and then you can't do anything for a little while, or your child might decide it's going to have a meltdown for Christmas and then you do nothing for a few months. And that's okay, because it's a journey. It is not a destination, people. You do not have to do it a certain way, okay? There are no right or wrong answers with it. And of course, what did I write here? It's okay. Look, it's okay. There is no right or wrong way. The point is, you are here today because you care, okay? That is the most important thing. You care about your child's education and you are trying your best, okay? That in itself will mean that they will always have a really good education because you are doing your best to understand the different approaches, to try the different things, to acknowledge that there is a journey to be had. So you're doing good. Okay, so keep on that. So education, now I personally believe this, there is research to back this up, okay, but from my own practice, I've known thousands and thousands of children throughout my life, and I can tell you that no matter what anyone says, what model you follow, education, behavior, and mental health are all linked together, okay? You parents are naturally very, very good at your child's mental health. You tend to understand what they need in the moment, and you are very good at giving it to them. That makes you excellent facilitators of your children's education, whichever model you tend to use, okay? And I will give you some of the different models so you understand which one you are using. That will help you, okay? But this is just very important that you look at your child holistically and not just look at their education and not just look at where their mental health is or all the things. They all come together, okay? With behavior, again, another thing I believe is that there is no such thing as bad behavior. I think that all behavior is communication. I've been trained therapeutically throughout my educational life. If they are behaving in a certain way, there is generally a reason, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. There's always a reason, and it's important to look behind the surface. We will come to that as the week progresses, okay? But for today, we are looking at the different approaches. We'll try and stick to it. Okay, so can you see this board? Just let me know in the comments. Can you even see this, or is it? I can't see it in the screen. It might be because I'm old. I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping you can see the board a bit. So for you and for home educating families, can't see, she says. Saida can't see it. Let me move you a little bit, Saida. Hang on. This isn't conventional on a live, but we're not a conventional company. There you go. Is that better? Okay, so look, education can look different for different people. Okay, so there are lots of different things that your children can do. Everyone worries about socialization. Of all the things you need to worry about in your lives, I promise you this, right? Socializing is not one of them, okay? Take that off your to-do list. Your child will naturally socialize because, again, I'll come to why in a minute. Hang on, that's Saida's doing, that's better. Okay, thank you, Saida. I'll start with my laptop like this, and I'll try and sort of zoom in on places as we go. It's not the best view, but at least you can see, right? So alternative education can look like this. Your child might engage. Again, let me know in the comments if your child engages with any of these things. Do they do anything therapeutic or holistic? Do they education or forest education, practical learning, expressive arts? What else have we got here? We've got tutors, sports, proofs, and other establishments. Has your child ever engaged with any of these? They may do them, but not on their own, not exclusively. They may do other things too. Let's see what else there is. Balance my laptop in one hand. If it falls, this is going to be a very interesting live. Okay, so, right, let's get into the models, okay? So we've got two types of education. You've got student-led and you've got teacher-centered, student-centered and teacher-centered, okay? Zoe's saying we love sensory play when he's regulated. It's amazing how much he can learn. Yeah, sensory is amazing for so many different types of learning. Put this down for a sec. Now, because I'm going to change this to this slide here. Okay, so there are two camps that your type of learning or the model that you use might sit in, okay? You've got your teacher-centered and you've got your student or child-centered approaches, okay? And these are all scientific models. They've all got research behind them, so you can go and research about the ones that you think you might engage with. 10 out of 10 if you can guess what Little Crofters Boxes and LCB education is. Okay, so we'll start with the teacher-centered approaches, okay? We've got essentialism, perennialism, and behaviorism, okay? I won't stick to this. What I'll do is I'll move to the next slide. If you want to have a little read, you can have a little read. Assuming I can get on the next slide. Come on, tech. Today is not the day, is it, for me? There we go. Okay, we are there. We have the teacher-centered models, okay? So what we've got, I'll bring you closer, you can read, look. So we've got, I can't even see that myself. Essentialism, I'll talk you through it because I know them in my head. Essentialism, right, is when the teacher is the one. They say, today we are doing science, children, and they decide what you're learning, and it's generally factual, basic stuff, English, maths. Most of you, no matter what type of education you are, You'll think, oh yeah, my child needs to do English and maths. There's clear goals. It's usually quite measurable. It's that essential education that they need to get through the basics. Okay, and most of us acknowledge that they need at least English and maths. So if you ever find yourself saying things like, we're doing times table daily until they're secure, or we follow a structured scheme for reading and writing, okay, that's basically called essentialism, okay? It's good if your child likes predictability, if they like to have a timetable and they know what's coming next and all those sorts of things. You know, I'm going to do an hour of English in the morning and then I get to go on my game for an hour, that sort of thing. Saida says expressive arts tutors outdoors. Good, Saida. So they're already doing alternative. Why essentialism is not so good is if they're in fight or flight, experiences of failure. So if they know they're not good at maths, and they know they've got maths coming up at 10 a.m. tomorrow, you know, that essentially is setting them up to fail. They're going to have a meltdown. They're not going to do it. They're not going to engage. You'll get bad behavior. If they're in school and they have to go to maths, you're generally going to be, you know, skiving that lesson or walking around the school or causing trouble to destroy the lesson. I speak from experience, you know, having had dealt with this throughout a lot of my educational life. And that's not because they're being naughty. It's because they've got these experiences and they're not going to stand up and articulate themselves, are they? Oh, by the way, miss, I don't want to engage today in maths because I've got some trauma surrounding maths, blah, 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 blah. They're not going to do that and do all the things until they don't have to do maths anymore. So that's when essentialism doesn't work. Okay, if you recognize any of what I've said, then don't use essentialism in any part of what you do. It's not going to work. Okay, perennialism is another teacher one. Okay, so perennialism is when you like to focus on things like, you know, the great ideas, the great texts of our history, maybe like Leonardo da Vinci. Little Craft has just had a month on Leonardo da Vinci or Einstein, or you know, maybe you like to sit around the dinner table and ask like really deep thinking questions. Those sorts of approaches are really, really good for sort of more philosophical children or families that like to kind of understand a little bit more about, you know, what is the meaning of life, that sort of thing, and go a bit deeper than just sort of superficial learning. When it doesn't work is sometimes when it's too abstract. Some kids don't like that because more predictable and a little bit more, well, this is the answer, that's not the answer, that sort of thing, and it can kind of go the other way if it's not used with the right type of child. And the last one, okay, there's a little box marking that, so I'll take this opportunity to put my laptop down for a sec and I'll just explain what behaviorism is. So behaviorism is the one that you all know and love from school. Okay, that's the one where you get rewards if you do well, you get sanctions if you don't do well, and the object of that is that you keep repeating the things that you do well so that you can progress to the next level. Okay, inside behaviorism, the only focus generally tends to be observable behaviors. So if a child is skiving a lesson, okay, that skiving is going to be the thing that gets the focus because that's the behavior that is being observed. What will not be observed is why they went to skive in the first place, which arguably is the more important thing than the skiving itself. So that's what behaviorism is, okay? You can tell from the way I'm even describing behaviorism, I am a little bit biased, only because I've taught behaviorism. I've taught other ways of, I've taught using all the different approaches throughout my life. And through my actual practice, I have seen what works better than others. And yes, okay, behaviorism doesn't fit all children, but I would argue that some other approaches do. So why don't we just adopt some of the other ones? I don't know. I'm not here to change education today. That's a job for another day. But today I'm here to talk you through the different strategies, okay? Behaviorism is not good for PDA. It's not good for anyone that's got trauma. It's not good for anxiety because obviously there are things that are deeper rooted than just the surface behaviors that you are seeing. And therefore behaviorism is going to have the opposite effect to moving that child up to progress. Okay, it's almost going to make them go backwards until they start using a different approach. The problem with then is that I never actually learned any of this stuff while I was in mainstream education. I learned it after I left. So teachers don't understand other approaches. Parents don't understand other approaches. How can you possibly teach us using a different approach if you don't even know that there is one. It blows my, once you know it, you can't unsee it. But obviously we are in a place here where lots of people don't know, so that's where we are. Okay, that moves us nice. Does any of this ring true? Let me know in the comments. Are there any light bulbs going off? So now we come to the learner-centered philosophies. Okay, so this is the child-centered ones. Okay, Zoe's saying it's so difficult to go against the approach you're taught is the only way. Yeah. If you want me to talk about why it's taught as the only way, I can talk about that a little bit in this live. Let me get through these approaches. Just let me know if you want me to sort of be like, child is more kind of given the steering wheel and go, okay, right, we'll do it a slightly different way. And progressivism is a fancy word for, I'm going to have to put this down, guys. My arms are too tired. I wonder if I can bring you a little bit closer. No, you can't see it. Okay, hang on. Let me undo my, there we go. Okay, yeah. So progressivism, that's learning through doing, okay? That's when they go out and plant plants. That's when they go and jump in muddy puddles. That's when they do chemistry experiments or get a little crafter's box and they build things and they follow instructions that they've got written down rather than having someone tell them how to do it. And they figure it out on their own, okay? They learn through doing. Research shows that when you learn through doing, 95% of that information stays in your long-term memory. Was it 95 or 90%? When you learn just through listening, you only retain 5% of that in your long-term memory. So the numbers are huge in comparison. It is a better way to learn, okay? Existentialism, okay? And that's when you try and understand yourself. Now, you parents are naturally very good at existentialism. It's when you kind of take your child out of school and go, no, they can't handle this right now. This is not good for them. I need to meet them where they are at. And right now, they need to build their confidence again. They need to get over this trauma again. They need to do this, and you can't provide need. You can't do this, okay? That is existentialism, when you understand themselves or when they understand themselves and they start at that point, okay? So when you say things like, my child is rebuilding confidence after school trauma, we're starting with what makes them feel capable, or we're learning to advocate for ourselves. Okay, let me know if that sounds familiar to you. Okay, that's all existentialism. It's when you come at the center, or the child becomes at the center of their learning, but not just learning, all of it, the whole shebang, whether that's mental health or all the other things, the pastoral side of it. And then the last one is constructivism. Constructivism is when, right, I believe in this one, so I'm going to put this down so I can do my hands. I kind of need to get it out there with my hands a bit more, and I really believe it's true. So constructivism is when they believe inside themselves. And I believe that everyone is born curious, right? When babies are born, who teaches them to learn? Who teaches them to take their first word or do their first steps? They watch, they learn, and they want to do it for themselves, okay? Learning is innate. It is inside us all, okay? And that goes on throughout our lives. You guys are here today because you're curious. You want to know more because this is a topic, okay? You have a natural curiosity inside yourself. That is intrinsic motivation. It's constructivism right there, okay? So therefore, you take the time to learn. You construct from where you were with your knowledge. You learn a bit more and a bit more and a bit more because you want to, okay? The only time children stop doing that, and again, I'm being generalizing a little bit, it's when something variable that, if you know the Maslow's pyramid of Maslow's hierarchy, so their basic needs need to be met first. Only then can that part of their brain sort of start to open up to learning and sort of looking at the world around them, okay? If one of their basic needs, let's say you became homeless, okay, and they had nowhere to live for a little while, all of a sudden a basic need isn't being met, so that part of their brain that learns is switched off and they can't do it right now. Let's say it was something like they were being bullied at school. They no longer feel safe, okay? So the minute safety is gone, that's it. That's a basic need. Therefore, learning is now switched off in their brain. That you can't even go into that room right now. Forcing them in a scenario where you are telling them to learn, or sanctioning them because they are not learning is not going to open that door any quicker. If anything, they're going to seal it shut even more, okay, until you are ready to nurture the thing that went wrong. And this obviously requires a different approach to behaviorism, because we're not looking at the observable behaviors, we're looking at what's underneath. The basic needs have to be met. So intrinsically, constructivism is when they start with a curiosity, assuming that all their basic needs are met, and they then build upon that. Let's see what you guys are saying. I love that. I found by teaching my son that way, I've discovered so much about him, and I learned too. There you go. Wonderful. So there you go. You've got teacher-centered, you've got child-centered. Teacher-centered is not wrong. Some children, and in fact, the whole mainstream model is built on that. So lots of sort of neurotypical children will just follow it. It's not arguably the best, but it is quick at getting results and getting them from the masses from A to B, which is what they need to do. And you've got, I've worked in schools where there's nearly 2,000 children. You've got 2,000 children going through. As a teacher, I was lucky to even know some of their first names, let alone anything else about them or why they were displaying the behaviors. It's only the ones that don't. There's no time in mainstream education in that behaviorism model to kind of get to know why and really look beneath the surface space in that model. So that's why alternative provisions exist. That's why companies like us exist. I exist because I met you guys during the pandemic and I did what you needed, not knowing that this knowledge that I've got in my head, obviously it's improved since I've met you all, not knowing that this knowledge was actually really important and so many people don't know. I think I took for granted that I thought everyone knew this, but not only do people not know, but I feel like now on this side of it, I feel like it's actively kept. So it's important actually that you understand that there are choices and it's all right. No one's going to sort of put you in jail for using a different approach. They just would rather that you use, they being, the government, the system, whatever you want to call it, okay? I think the overall system prefers that mainstream approach because it can be measured. They like those numbers. It allows a bit more control. And obviously, the whole point is that behavior, it's the opposite, isn't it? It's like trying to push a round, what's the expression? Square peg, round hole? It's not going to work. Okay, I'll stop talking about that now. Right, so why does this matter? Why does any of this matter, the different approaches, and why does it matter that you even know what that is, okay? It's because for some children, teacher-centered approaches feel safe. For others, especially SEND, anxiety, PDA, trauma, histories, we often need to use a child-centered approach, okay? To make sure that their brain is ready to learn, okay? And you already, I don't think I know. You guys already know that, but just not maybe with that vocabulary sometimes. It's hard to know why you're doing things, isn't it, sometimes? But actually, you've naturally found a model that works just without naming it. So example, if you've got an anxious learner, if a child is panicking, they can't access working memory. So therefore, we start with safety, tiny wins, and build the academics in afterwards, okay? If you've got a PDA profile, let me know in the comments if you've got experience with a PDA profile. I've got plenty of them in the LCB community, okay? Rewards and sanctions. Behaviorism is not going to work, okay? It will send them into absolute meltdown. Okay, their immune systems absolutely cannot cope when they feel that there is a demand. That approach is lost before it's even begun, okay? They need to feel like they are in control. They need to feel like they've made the decisions so that they can then achieve and progress to that next step. They are curious. They want to learn. Remember constructivism, okay? We all want to learn. We've just got to do it in a way where we can process that learning. And then the third example I've got is interest-led catch-up. A child who won't write might write a whole page about Minecraft. That's not avoidance, it's a doorway. So all those sorts of things. If you guys are in our community, the LCB education community, we say all these things all the time. And you will wholeheartedly preach this now because I teach you all the time in the things that we talk about. So which way is the best way? Which way is the best way? Do you guys have a preference? Let me know in the comments. What do you like the sound of? What has your child been through before? And where would you like them to get to in the future? My opinion on this, and it's just my opinion, it's not a fact or anything like that. I think that blended approaches, so not one particular approach, but blended approaches work really, really well, okay? At Little Crafters Boxes and LCB Education, my favorite two, because I wholeheartedly believe in them from my own practice with children, we use constructivism because learning is innate. And we also use progressivism, learning through doing, okay? Because when they do actually do work, it's way better when they actually have the experiences rather than being taught theories, okay? So everything we do is hands-on, real life-based, but we meet them where they are at. So one could argue there's a little bit of existentialism in there. I know that you parents like the English and maths, so there's a tiny bit of essentialism in there as well. It's still done in a way, though, where they choose, they decide where, they decide how, they decide when. So they still get lots and lots of things that they can still given. And we're still here 6 years later. The company has doubled in size every single year because that blended approach really works, okay? And the more of you that find it, it actually changes your whole world when you actually realize, oh, this is it. This is how to do it, okay? And Saida's going, yep, agreed. Thank you, Saida. Okay, so there are other theories out there. I've told you the main 6, okay? They're the ones I've got like written down research. There's loads of kind of offshoots of theories that are a little bit of the approaches that I've already talked about. I'll move you closer again so you can see. Oh, my wire nearly fell off. It's this has got to be the most disorganized day of lives I think I've ever done in 6 years. So these are the other theories. Look, you've got social learning theory, which is learning around observation, imitation. For example, when you do sports coaching, you've got self-directed learning, which is completely self-directed, where the child completely sets their own learning goals. You see this a lot in today's day, with homesteading and things like that, when people are like living on the farm or whatever. They might decide that, the child might decide, oh, today I'm going to go milk the sheep. You don't milk the sheep. I'm going to go and learn how to do the milking of the cow, or this lamb's about to give birth, and off they go and they go and do that. But they are learning, it's life skills happening around them all the time. And it's a perfectly acceptable way of learning. You've got cognitive load, where you've got broken down for limited working memory, online courses, LCB workbooks. So cognitive, so we've broken it down again with our learning portal. That's another way. So it's different ways of doing the same thing, essentially. Okay, that's it. That's all the learning. I'm going to set you a challenge in a sec. Zoe's saying, I like a blended approach too. I like formal learning in some ways, particularly maths, as that's his strengths, but then love the hands-off approach and giving choices too. There you go. It sounds like you've been on quite a journey, Zoe, and you've mastered the exact balance of what works for you in your house, and that's spot on. It means, your child is getting the best kind of education they can possibly get. That's better than a private education, because you've completely personalized it for them. Okay, this is what I want you to do today. Now, there is a thread over in Facebook. If you engage, you could win a copy of my book. Okay, this is it. Okay, I want you to think, it's only a small thing, where on the alternative education roadmap you are. Okay, and what might or what does alternative education look like in your house when it is going well. Okay, think about the approaches that we've talked about. Or if you can't remember the approaches, just think, right, is it more teacher-centered, or is it more student-centered or child-centered? And then go to Facebook in LCB Education and write down your approaches. Again, talk to each other. I bet you've got more in common than you think. So that's the reason I'm asking. So go there and comment. And there you go. I hope you found today helpful. Over the next couple of days, we're going to go a little bit deeper. We're going to look at educational trauma, if your child has encountered it, and how you and your child can, start to overcome it. You might have not processed it yet without realizing it might have happened years ago. You might not even realize it's happened. We'll talk about that. And then the other one is reluctance. Do you ever have a child that says, oh, mother, I can't be bothered today to do any work. Let's pop it aside for another day, but in more colorful language? If the answer to that question is yes, then you will want to come to that. I think that's the tomorrow's one. Come along to that one and I'll tell you how to deal with reluctance. There you go. Okay, so nice. Thank you, Zoe. That's very kind of you to say that you found it helpful and reassuring. I hope the rest of you did too. I will love you and leave you. Have a wonderful evening. It's nice to see that the tech is working. Tomorrow morning's live for the children will be here again at 10 a.m. And then the evening one for the parents will be at 8 p.m. again tomorrow night. So hopefully I'll see you again at one of those. Have a lovely evening, whatever you're doing. Take care.